Hi, I'm Patrick Jagir with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to this latest edition of me talking to you about the astrology and the current events and what we're likely to expect to see in the coming month and the coming times. So, yeah, thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks for hanging in. This channel has been very sparsely populated with content in the last few months, but I've got a lot of changes going on in life. It's kind of sapped my mojo and my creativity, just eating up a lot of emotional and mental bandwidth. But today I'm joining you from my new office space, the office where I do acupuncture full time, and we've got some natural light today. You can probably see the kind of the shadows of the window panes on the wall. So I'm in a very different sort of practice situation. Before, I was in kind of a shopping center kind of a place. Only had windows on the front of the building, so it was like a drawer in a filing cabinet. And my treatment room had no windows, and the space where I was filming videos had absolutely no windows. So I was under a ring light all the time, and those things just kind of dry your eyes out. You know, they're LCDs, so they're just as bad as the TVs and the computer monitors and the phones and all that crap. So I'm in the natural light today. Those ring lights make you look probably about 10 years younger, but I think I'm still doing pretty all right. You'll probably see some more white hair than usual. So yeah, I'm happy to be in this new office, and you'll probably be seeing a lot of me sitting here. I've got Freya and Frey behind me, those little statues. So yeah, let's talk about April here. Definitely a time of big changes. We're seeing this in the world where we're building up to something. It's like we're building up to some critical point. I think it's going to be a series of critical points, and really things don't really come to a head for another couple of years here. But we're in a build-up. It's very apparent something's going on, and that something has to give, and that the status quo is pretty much done for, and thank God. Like I've said in other videos, these last 2 years have been a relief for me, because I got some of the spoilers. Like I talked about in a previous video, when I was a young, new naval intelligence officer, I had a guy who was like mid-career. You know, he was probably 12, 13, 14 years into his career. He told me about the whole scamdemic, plandemic, that there would be some health emergency, but it would be bogus. It wouldn't really be real. It would be all about a corporate and financial restructuring. And he also said if there's a three injection series, stay away from it. It's most likely going to be bad news. So I got some spoilers in that part of my life about where things were going, where the world was going. Also too, just from the time I was a boy, I just sort of looked around at, you know, what people were doing, and I was like, oh my God, is this what you do when you're an adult? So I've been waiting for a shake-up in the world for a long time, and it's here. It's been here for a couple of years, maybe even longer than that even. But apparently, everybody can agree, no matter what they think, no matter what their politics, what they think about the scamdemic, what they think about who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. If they're thinking in those terms of good guys, bad guys, we can all agree that the shake-up has been here for a while. So, time of big changes. So, with these times of big changes, this involves transformation. Transformation is not always pleasant. I also read runes, and in the runes, in the Elder Futhark, the old system of 24 runes, there are 2 runes that deal with transformation. So you get Hagalaj, that's one way to say it. I'm sure some people will go fucking crazy. I make a video about that rune and I use that pronunciation. Anyway, people love to have pissing contests about rune pronunciations. So you've got Hagalaj and then you have Yuwaj. Hagalaj or Hyalaj is a rune of voluntary change. So it's called the hailstone rune, and hail and snow have to do with Hola, the kind of one of the earth mothers who causes the snow and the ice and the hail every winter in order to clean the earth. So that's really what, especially in colder climates, spring is very fresh in colder climates where you have snow, because the earth is basically draped in solid water for months on end, and then it melts, and the melting snow actually washes things. So spring in those places is very vivid and very clear. You know, I live in North Carolina now. For me, it's a stale spring. It's welcome, but the energy is much more stale, and as you go south, you get a vibrance. You know, especially you go into the tropics, it's very vibrant. But to me, it's very stale because you don't have that clean out. You know, tropical places are beautiful, but you don't get that cleaning every year. So anyway, Mother Hola was this earth mother who cleaned the earth every year with using winter. Hyalaj is her rune. It's the hail rune. This is about voluntary cleansing. When you see that something has to change, and you do it. You take the steps to do it. You ask for the divine guidance, and you say, okay, I know I have to do this, please help me. Then you have Yuwaj on the other hand. Yuwaj deals with the yew tree, the tree of immortality. Yew trees are often planted in cemeteries because the branches grow into the ground, and they become roots, and then a new yew tree develops. So that's kind of the idea with this rune, is there's this downward movement and then a new upward movement. And it deals with involuntary transformation. This is when life is always giving us warning signals. So when unexpected things happen, we get shocked, we get hurt, but there are always signs that things were going to go that way. We just didn't. We weren't paying attention. We weren't looking close enough. We just weren't seeing what was in front of us. So when we miss all the signs that something has to change, we miss our opportunity to embrace Hagalaj, then we are faced with no choice. But a little stutter there. We're faced with no choice but to embrace Yuwaj, which is the involuntary transformation that life goes ahead and puts us through. So it's like our souls put us through it, our higher selves facilitate it, you know, because our souls are always creating our life, the circumstances of it. The soul charts out a whole curriculum in this earth school for us to go through. So even when transformations are no fun, they're painful, it's something we needed to get the soul to the goals that it charted. So this Yuwaj, involuntary transformation, it's just things that we must go through. Usually things that are destined to happen. To get us to grow and evolve, we have to go through these transformations. And we miss the opportunity again to do it voluntarily. So there are a lot of both going on in the world. And by the way, if you want to learn more about these runes and get a kind of a nice mind map to see where you're at, where things are open, where things are blocked in your mind, I also do rune readings, which is really fascinating. So anyway, there's a mix of things going on in the world right now. Voluntary transformation and involuntary transformation. It depends where people are at. We're not always there. We don't always catch things, and we're not always in a mindset where we say, okay, I'm going to face this change head on. I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to do this, this, and this. We often get stuck in status quos. Status quos, in everybody's defense, and and in my defense at times, Status quos are very comfortable, they're reliable, and they're stable. But they can't always last forever. So on this subject of status quos, April is a big month where we start seeing status quos crumble away. And I have to, like I say every month, this isn't going to be one of those, this isn't one of those things where it's like, okay, the disclosure and the revelations are coming, and Donald Trump's going to be president by the 4th of July, or Bernie Sanders is going to be president by Martin Luther King Day, and and all the bankers are being arrested, and the 1 million sealed indictments are going out, and the white hats in the military are going to bring a bunch of veterans in. They're going to arrest all these people and all the child traffickers. Yeah, I wish, but it's not that easy. Really, this shit's going to take 20, 30 years to really clean up. Because it's going to take almost 20 years for Pluto to move on to Aquarius, and Saturn, well, no, it's going to take 30 years for Saturn to meet it again. Because Pluto and Saturn just met up in Capricorn. That's all about an overhaul and a cleanup within government and authority. Finance for America, because it's the second house. So, it's going to take years to clean this shit up. But there are just all these things out there where it's like, it's going to be all set in a couple months because the good guys are going to put the bad guys away. Well, nobody agrees on who the good guys and the bad guys are. So, yeah, good luck with that. It's like the QAnon stuff. QAnon's a psyop. I'm glad QAnon's out there. It's gotten a lot of people who were very biased towards status quos for a long time to actually start thinking about the world around them. And it's helped them to get out of their narcissism that told them that the most powerful people in the world get on TV every day and explain themselves to you and tell you what the fuck is going on and why they're doing it. So it's broken a lot of really stodgy conservative people, or people who are just sort of like education and university degree worshippers. It's gotten a lot of those people who would only accept information from major propaganda sources like news networks and publishing houses and universities. It's gotten a lot of those people to start thinking critically and being like, oh yeah, we kind of are slaves on a big, a plantation where you can't see the chains. It's gotten people to start thinking this way, and the government is predatory, and the government really just works for banks and drug companies and big business. It's gotten a lot of the wheels in those people's heads turning, but there are a lot of psyops going on to see if people will believe these stories about, the war is going to be over by Christmas. That's the way they've gotten, not so much these days, but especially in the past, you're talking about World War I, American Civil War, and so many others. They've gotten people to go to war because they say, the whole thing's going to be over by Christmas, so let's get on board right now in the spring or in the summer. Well, it's nice and warm, and it doesn't suck to sleep outside on the ground. It'll be over by Christmas. You'll be back with your families. Yeah, right. A lot of people are taking in information that is told in a very similar vein, and they're like, Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, they're going to be president at any time. Or Joe Biden's just going to rule by executive order, like that wacko woman on The View. Because you can't get crazy people and insurrectionists to come to a consensus with you. So many people are just waiting for a messiah right now to just take care of everything. That's not going to happen. That's really the point here, and I'm going to wrap up the tangent. So, transformation. Status quo is coming to an end. Going to be inconvenient. So, the thing I'm telling people here is don't rush to good versus bad judgments, because those are dualistic, those are polar, and they don't take the full situation into account. And, sort of the implications of all these situations we're in. So don't rush to those judgments. At the same time, too, be ready to make lemonade. So we're gonna get we're gonna get some lemons. We're gonna get some inconvenience. None of the fear porn stories are gonna come true in my mind. There's all kinds of fear porn stories. The 2020s are the decade of fear porn. So it's, oh, everybody's going to die from COVID. Oh, everybody's going to die from spike proteins from the vaccinated shedding. Oh, we're going to die in a food shortage. Oh, we're going to die in a nuclear war with Russia. Oh, There's some kind of fear porn that's attractive to every type of person right now. None of those scenarios, none of those paranoid fantasies are going to come to fruition. But it may seem like they are going to. So we're going to be inconvenienced, but just be ready to make some lemonade. It's not going to be that bad. But we have grown up with convenience being our way of life. So when the lack of convenience is getting frustrating or possibly even scary, look at the people in your community who are from third world countries and just imagine what a bad day might seem like to them. It's much, much harder than anything that the majority of us have ever experienced. If you haven't been to third world countries, a lot of them aren't pretty. So just be ready to make the lemonade. Things will get better. What else? Another thing too is we're going to see the beginnings of shifts in who holds power. I think this year you're probably going to see some politicians get shit canned, get fired, get replaced. Tony the Rat Fauci has already stepped down. He's resigned. Can't wait till he's the fuck out of there. It seems like he'll just never leave. But yeah, shifts in power. This whole overhaul of government, which you had Saturn and Pluto both in Capricorn. Then you had Saturn and Jupiter meet up in Capricorn. That's like, wherever Saturn and Jupiter meet, things get cleaned out. That's why in the old days, people wouldn't pick leaders in years where Saturn and Jupiter met up. And that's why here in America, every 20 years, you have this curse of the presidents ever since, 1840 with Benjamin Harrison, who died in office. And then it was 1860, Abraham Lincoln died in term. 1880, who was it? I think Garfield was assassinated shortly after that election, and then McKinley was elected in 1900. He was assassinated a few years later. Harding, elected in 1920, died in office. Roosevelt, elected in 1940, died after being re-elected in 44. Kennedy, 1960. Reagan, shot but not killed, elected in 1980. George W. had a grenade thrown at him when he was in Georgia. Thing didn't go off. And so now, 2020, I don't think Biden's going to make it, one way or the other. And then 2000 and 2020, we had this whole electoral, insanity where everybody's rigging the elections on every side and we can't agree about the outcome. So, yeah, there are shifts in power. Whenever you select a leader in one of these years, it doesn't go well for them. Because it's a time when the old is getting clean. It's the generational clean out. It's a 20-year generational clean out. So we're going to be seeing some of that. And, Congress, for example, here in America is just full of these 80-year-olds that won't fucking leave. Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. There's just so many of them. I could just keep going on and on and on and on. It's like old farts galore. Now, granted, we need to value elders and we need to respect elders, but not all old people are elders. And that's a thing that we need to get. Because if you blindly admire and just follow people in positions of authority, you get fucked. So it's not just people with job titles, but it's even like older people. It's like you make sure they have character, make sure they're worthy of leadership, make sure they're worthy of influencing you. So yeah, we have, not all old people are elders. Some young people are elders. So we have positions of authority filled with these people that need to go. Just fucking retire already. So yeah, overhaul of authority, government, leadership. It's all, the balls are rolling. It's going to be more apparent that finance is being overhauled. April 4th, 5th, when Saturn and Mars are together at around 28 degrees of Capricorn, which is Mars, the exaltation degree of Mars. Mars is exalted. Mars is unusually powerful in Capricorn. It's the most powerful. It's the get shit done planet and the get shit done sign. 28 degrees is the most powerful planet Mars has in Capricorn. So it's the get shit done degree. Saturn and Mars are going to meet up there. That's Capricorn, second house of finance. Wealth and finance and money for America. The market's probably going to dip like it did in March 2020. And then it's going to bounce back, by about May, June or something. So, don't get too wrapped up in that. But, there'll be a bounce. It'll be a dip and a bounce. But in the next few years, it's going to get more serious. We're gonna have a 2008 again in the next few years here. And then too, with these shifts of power and these destructions of the status quo, Saturn's moving from Capricorn to Aquarius. So Saturn, which is fate, karma, destiny, getting taught lessons, setbacks teach us lessons. Saturn met Pluto and it retrograded and went back and forth. It went back and forth across the natal K2 for America, which is in Capricorn. So yeah, I met Pluto a few times. I met Jupiter. Saturn did a lot of work in Capricorn. Now Saturn's going to step out into Aquarius, its other sign. So it's going to go from government and authority to we the people, to freedom, to fairness. So as Saturn goes to Aquarius, all the remodeling that it made the plans for in Capricorn, all that stuff is going to start manifesting. And another quick thing here with finance I want to throw out there, and I'll make a video about this probably. I think crypto is the new gold. So what I mean by that is that in the 1930s during the Depression, the government made this announcement. It is now illegal to own gold and silver. Please bring it, I don't know, I think people turn it in at banks. Please bring your gold and silver to these designated places and we'll pay you for it. Before they did this, they drove the value of it down. They manipulated it down. And once people had confiscated it and they'd given them dollars in exchange, they boosted the price again. So, and it wasn't, the government really turned this over to the banks because the banks own the country anyway. So the bank got filthy rich off of that. So if somebody implements like a Fed coin, so Federal Reserve run crypto, they're probably going to do this. They're probably going to have, it's going to be confiscation veiled as like voluntary surrender. It's like how they got the Australians to turn in their guns for money within the last 20 years. It's going to be one of those kind of things. Hey, we're all in it together. Be hip and be progressive and go and turn in your crypto and you're going to get this great new Fed coin. They're going to pull some shit like that. So I'd say if you have it, hang on to it and don't do anything with it for 20, 30 years. At the end of that 20, 30 years when it's like legal again, you're going to do great. So, yeah. So, it's the new gold. It's the new gold and silver, cryptos. But yeah. So another thing about April, the turmoil, volatility. This will be going on. It's not the end of the world. Somebody predicts a rapture. You got these like fundamentalist preachers who predict the rapture, a couple times a year. The rapture's not coming. Jesus isn't coming with the sword hanging out of his mouth and the whole bit and the four horsemen. We're going to be all right. And another little concept here is Age of Aquarius. People are always saying, well, when does the Age of Aquarius start? And there's all this debate, and it's like, well, from the Vedic astrology point of view, the sun's not going to, because we do sidereal zodiac rather than the tropical western, the sun will not rise at 29 degrees of Aquarius for another 400 years. It's like 420, 450 years. Because when people talk about what age are we in, it's all about what degree, what sign and degree that the sun is rising on March 21st, the spring equinox. So this year, the sun rose at 6 degrees of Pisces. So we're not there yet. Until it's like totally bona fide, official, it's going to be another 400 years. But the ages are not, it's not a black and white thing. It's not a light switch. It's not a on-off light switch. It's a dimmer switch. So the Age of Aquarius is very much dimming up. And what happens is at the cusp between these 2,000-year ages of the zodiac, precession of equinoxes, they start blending together. So we have a Pisces Aquarius blend, but it's in advanced stages. Aquarius is in advanced stages of ramping up, and Pisces is in pretty advanced stages of ramping down. So we're starting to feel Aquarius come in, but Pisces doesn't want to die. And that's why, collectivism is making another push. Socialism, communism, religious fundamentalism, all that shit. But yeah, we're seeing the beginnings of it. And really, like I said, the 20, 30 years for finance to be changed, for government to be changed, once Saturn comes around and meets Pluto in Aquarius, that's not a long time in the grand scheme. It's a lot better than waiting 400 years. But yeah, with this, I think with Jupiter and Neptune meeting up, when is that? April 14th. They're going to meet at 29 degrees of Aquarius. That's an indicator. Yep, it's coming. So 29 degrees, the degree of Aquarius right before Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune are going to meet up. I don't know when the last time they did that was, but it's probably been a while. Because Neptune takes, 100 and... Let me see. About 100 and 60 years to go around. So yeah. It's probably been a while since they met up at that degree. I don't even know. So yeah. Better to wait 20, 30 years than it is to wait 400. So, yeah, Aquarius is definitely coming. So, Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is gifts, optimism. Neptune is kind of virtual realities, illusions, but also disclosures and revelations. It depends where your consciousness meets reality, meets the shared reality. And so Aquarius is we the people, it's freedom, fairness, it's the future. Aquarius is getting what you want out of life. And then 29 degrees, it's one of the miracle degrees. 0 and 29 are the miracle degrees. Because it's all about, basically 0 degrees is infinite potential, because the planet just came from another sign. And at 29 degrees, the planet has gained the experience of passing through that whole sign, and it's on a doorway to a new sign. So amazing things happen when planets meet at these miracle degrees, 0 and 29. So Jupiter and Neptune together, this can either utterly blind you and help you to lead yourself into delusions about what's going on and who you are and what's going on in your life, or it can give you these like beautiful divine revelations and disclosures, but it just depends what kind of condition you're showing up in. So, but that's very Aquarian, because it's basically, this is like a gift to the people. As Jupiter and Neptune are getting ready to go to their home sign of Pisces, they're working on showing us something, helping us to see something that we need to see. And it's Aquarius, so I think it has to deal with how we've been treated and what has been done to the people, what has been done in the people's name. And then for America, Aquarius is the third house of media. So I think this can show how the media has just been a propaganda factory, a prestigious propaganda factory that is really a god in modern times. Media is without a doubt a god, and I have people in my family who know more about their favorite politicians than they do about their children, and they follow that much more closely. So media is a god. The news is a god. It's the new peasant religion. So, new by about last 100 years when Hollywood got started. So yeah, and then the other Aquarian thing too is that Saturn, days after, about 14, 15 days after Jupiter and Neptune meet up, Saturn goes into Aquarius. So it's like a double boom in Aquarius, and it's on the two opposite ends. Saturn will enter Aquarius at the 0 degree mark because it's coming from Capricorn, and then Jupiter and Neptune met at 29. So it's like these bookends. You have these bookend events in Aquarius in a single month. So pretty cool. This is a little sign from God. It's like, yeah, you're going to have to go through inconvenience, but things are going in a good direction, and you're going to get things that you want out of life. So pretty neat. So yeah, that was a long kind of a summary, but I haven't talked to you in a while, so I'm a little long-winded. Let's get into the specific days now. Now, an interesting thing here is that for April, all planets, I guess this is kind of summary still, but all planets will change signs in April except for Uranus and Pluto. That's a lot of change, so this can kind of make life feel like the sand is shifting underneath our feet. And it might seem like everything in life is up for grabs right now. We might feel like, oh my God, well, what else is going to change? What other kind of change am I going to have to roll with? That's the season we're in. It's not going to last forever. It's going to start feeling more stable. But that's a big deal when you have these personal planets and these social planets, so these inner and outer planets, all but two changing signs at one time. So it's going to be all right. It might not feel that way. Media, even alternative media, might tell you otherwise, but it's going to be all right. Alternative media can get pretty fucking annoying. A lot of those people are under this fear spell. They're helping to make louche. They're feeding the fear factor, even though they're trying to help you to understand. They just need to calm it down a little. Anyway, let's get into these specific days here of April. So April 1st, Happy New Year. April 1st is the day of the Pisces new moon. Pisces new moon is the first day of the solar new year. So, I was actually born on the Pisces new moon way back in the early 80s, in 1981. So, yeah, I was born 2 hours before it. I was a New Year baby. So yeah, the Pisces new moon. This is when the new moon happens in Pisces, obviously, and then after that, a couple weeks later, Sun goes to Aries, and it's like the whole cycle restarts. So this sets the tone for the whole year. So whatever the sky looks like on this day, this is one of the indicators of what the year is going to look like. And even years beyond it, especially if the conjunctions are rare, when you get these movements of these outer planets, which is definitely the case. So, Vedic New Year, Solar New Year, we have the new moon is going to be at 17 degrees of Pisces. Let me look at the nakshatra here. I forgot to write that down. Bear with me, please. Oh, come on. You go to April 1st. No. Here we are. Okay, Sun and Moon in Revati. That's right. So, Revati is the lunar mansion. It's one of the lunar mansions that makes up Pisces. So Revati is it's the final lunar mansion. It's the constellation of travelers, and it's all about basically peace and spirituality and courtesy, uprightness, all that good stuff. So it's a really good constellation to start a year on. And we've got Mercury in the mix. So Mercury's at 15 degrees, just 2 degrees below the new moon. So the planet at the lowest degree in a conjunction always has a lot of influence. So I think this Mercury, Mercury is what is called debilitated in Pisces. The way some people explain this is that, when a planet's debilitated, it can't get anything done, it's just floundering and rudderless and it can't move. No, that's not true. It's just that a planet works differently and it actually works harder. So Mercury in Pisces, especially like I am, if you're born with a Mercury in Pisces, I was actually 0 Pisces. When you're born with Mercury at Pisces, people can accuse you of, if you don't have other planets balancing it, people can accuse you of having your head in the clouds, of being a dreamer, of being concerned with impractical things. Because Mercury in Pisces is like exploring the deep ocean of Pisces, and Pisces is like the heavens, and it's the hidden, and it's the divine. So Mercury is debilitated here because having your mind on this stuff doesn't really help you to get shit done in the real world all the time. Unless you get practical and find a way to get people to pay you for thinking about these things. Like being an acupuncturist, like doing astrology readings. It's not a very practical place for Mercury to be. So, especially in ancient society that this astrology comes from, it's all about get married when you're 18, have some kids, build your financial empire, put those blinders on, go to work, you know what I mean? And that's sort of a society. This is not, in a society where you have to conform. Mercury in Pisces, it's not a great placement. But Mercury can do amazing things in Pisces. Mercury can become aware of and think about amazing, fascinating things, but they're things that you really can't tell most people about because they're just like, why are you telling me about conspiracies and how politicians are bought off and blackmailed? I don't want to hear about that. That's the kind of information Mercury in Pisces can get you. So I think with this placement of this Mercury, we're being challenged this year to look deep into the deep waters in the heart of Pisces and see what's really been going on, what's being done in secret. Because Pisces, hidden places, out of the way places. So we've got that going on. Then we have, on this day, we have Saturn and Mars 2 degrees away. Mars is moving towards Saturn. They're about to meet in Capricorn. They're about to do some karmic destruction of the systems of government and authority and finance as we've known them for many, many years. So, setting the tone here where it's like, yeah, government and finance are going to be in some trouble, and power is going to shift to different people, and even to a different deep state, because there are competing deep states going on. And the deep state that everyone calls the deep state, that's the one that's had the upper hand for the last, I'd say 1700 years, with the creation of the Catholic Church within the Vatican. That one is having a lot of trouble right now. And a new one's going to take its place. You know, the presidential election of 2020 in America, those are two deep states fighting each other. The mainstream deep state had Joe Biden as its front man, and then Donald Trump was the front man for the underdog deep state that wants to throw off the long-standing overlord one, which we could use a break from them. But yeah, one thing in the whole flavor of this year is government, authority, hierarchy, finance. A lot of people and institutions taking a tumble. And there'll be new ones to take their place. And then also, we have again that Jupiter will be moving towards Neptune. It'll be 2 degrees away from Neptune in the later degrees of Aquarius. So again, Aquarius is what you want from life. It's your desires, it's your wishes. It's also financial gain. It's we the people, it's humanity. And for America, it's media and communication. So Jupiter and Neptune are getting ready to show us all kinds of media manipulation and propaganda and just outright lying and, you know, bias. Some astrologers put it lightly. Media bias. No, it's fucking lies and propaganda. They're getting ready to show us that. Again, not everybody's going to agree. And we sort of have this divergence in society going on, so that's going to widen too as this happens. So yeah, those are the big things here. And then, you know, you get that Uranus trucking through Aries. It's where it was in 1937. So 2024 is going to be just like 1939, where World War II kicked off, where the Third Reich invaded Poland. That was like the first action was in September 1st, 1939. So we're kind of like 2 years from a parallel situation. I don't think it's going to be conventional war like that necessarily, but it's going to be a shot heard around the world. So yeah, all that sets the tune because it's going on that Pisces new moon. April 2nd, minor thing, Sun, Mercury meet up in Pisces. So, you know, really it's like the sun, like the soul level, and then the ego, on the other hand, meeting up with Mercury, the intellect. So, you know, we're really, on the one hand, when they meet up at this time of year, it's always about bringing the old year to a close. But then on another hand, it's like when Sun and Mercury meet up, Mercury has all this fuel from the sun. Intellect has all this fuel from the soul to really look at things in a critical way, look at hidden things. Then April 4th to the 5th, I spoke about this a bit. Saturn and Mars conjunct in Capricorn at the exaltation degree of Mars, 28th degree. So I think around this day, it's going to be like March 2020. Stock market's going to drop. It's going to lose several hundred points, 1,000 points, maybe a couple thousand. It's going to stay down. The news is going to be like, oh, woe is us. And then it's going to bounce back, you know, May, June. Now, with that said, inflation is a huge ass problem. It's overdue. And I don't think we have another war in us in order to pump the money system up. I think the money system has been pumped up enough, and Not going to happen. We're gonna go through some inconvenience in this decade, some financial inconvenience. So yeah, Mars and Saturn and Capricorn are heralding that. Now also, some people in government I think are going to be taking a lot of flack, taking a lot of withering fire. I think you'll see people stepping down, maybe even getting removed, votes of no confidence in these parliamentary type countries. So we'll see what happens, and then, in the background of all that stuff in Capricorn, Pluto is down at 4 degrees. So Pluto is, for the next 20, 30 years, is rearranging Capricorn, authority, government, and then finance and wealth and money for America. So, yeah, that's a biggie right there. April 7th, Mars goes into Aquarius. So Venus is going to be in there, Jupiter, Neptune. So Mars is going to bring some intensity to all that stuff that's going to happen in Aquarius that we're going to get to later. And April 6th through the 9th, Mercury does one of the 3 of the years of Gandanta. So Gandanta is when a planet goes from a water sign to a fire sign. At the 4 degrees where they meet, so last 2 degrees of the water sign, first 2 of the fire sign, it basically boils it's like it makes steam. The water boils and it can make things feel out of control, desperate, totally wacky. But Mercury does this 3 times a year, so it's not a huge deal. But it's like this, Sun, Moon, Mercury, they do 3 a year. Well, excuse me, Moon's doing them all the time. But yeah, Sun does 3 a year, Mercury does 3 a year. It's part of that intensity, part of that power of the spring. I think it kind of brings that energy in. But yeah, people's thinking around this time, especially if the market's going boop for a while, with Saturn and Mars meeting in Capricorn, this could cause some panicky, this Mercury Gandanta transitioning from Pisces to Aries. This could make people think in very desperate and hysterical ways. So like I said, don't worry about it. April 14th, that is Jupiter and Neptune conjunct 29 degrees of Aquarius. So again, Aquarius, we the people, humanity, fairness, justice, the future, all your hopes and desires in life. And for America, 3rd house of media and communication. So Mercury and Jupiter, Jupiter and Neptune, 29 degrees of the sign Aquarius. This is all about showing us what has been going on with media forever. Media is a modern religion. It's been around for 100 years now. Mass media as we know it. Hollywood and then television and, the internet and all that stuff. Online media. It's a false god. It's a bunch of propaganda. It's a bunch of illusions. And it's a new religion. People just buy it hook, line, and sinker, and they don't question the sources anymore. They think that multi-billion-dollar media companies exist to tell them the truth because I went to college and I own a house and my grandpa fought in World War II. No one would lie to me. I'm a voter. It's helping us to call that into question and see the reality of that. That is very encouraging. And then too, this 29th degree of Aquarius, it's the door into Pisces where Jupiter and Neptune are both at home. So they're basically opening a window. They're cracking open a window at the 29th degree of Aquarius where they meet and they're like, hey, you want to take a look inside our home, Pisces? And again, Pisces is secrets, hidden things, hidden places, outer space. That could be a whole thing that's coming our way. The Pentagon's been talking about UFOs for a long time. The Pentagon has whole agencies and committees that deal with the whole problem of, when extraterrestrial life is finally disclosed, what are we going to do about that? 15 years ago, the Vatican had a conference and decided what their policy would be when ETs are finally acknowledged. What will be their religious stance, their official stance on that. So, yeah, Neptune and Jupiter are opening that window, they're opening that door at 29 degrees of Aquarius for us to see into Pisces, all the hidden things, and even divine things. So, this is a big ass day, and you've got Venus and Mars in there too. So it's like you've got divine feminine and divine masculine in there. So I think it's all about seeing what's really going on so we can bring things back into balance, really. So, very interesting. And then Saturn on that day will be at 29 degrees of Capricorn, so it's getting ready to shift, and it's doing some really intense stuff to Capricorn, government, authority, finance, in order to facilitate the changes. And then shortly thereafter, Jupiter will go to Pisces, it'll go home, followed, several days later by Neptune. April 16th, full moon, 3 degrees of Libra. So, yeah. This full moon is basically, full moons are about birth, full moons are about shedding the light on things. It's when our minds, the moon is the big macro version of our minds. Sun is the macro version of the soul. It's when the soul shines its full light onto the moon. So, Libra is business, it's all social relationships, all of the relationships in our lives. It's value, it's balance. So, we're going to have our minds on, okay, what is balance? What value should we be seeking in life? It's a full moon for kind of new relationships and new partnerships to be born. Let me see, what is the lunar mansion? I'm slowing us down here with this ill-preparedness. Oh shit. Doing it with my left hand, hitting the wrong buttons. How did I know? Here we go. The moon is in Chitra. Cool. Chitra is the lunar mansion, the nakshatra of writers. It's great for writing, for works of art, for designing things. So I think this shines a light on people all over the world are redesigning their friendships, relationships, all the people they ally and partner with, because again, humanity is diverging. Whether they want freedom, they want to embrace freedom and do the work it takes and embrace the responsibility necessary to be a free person, or they're just going into collectivism and be like, yeah, just give me as many shots as you need to, Dr. Fauci, and oh, you need me to wear 3 masks? Oh yeah, that's fine. Oh, I need to show people a vax passport everywhere I go. Oh yeah, that's fine. So people are either embracing freedom or embracing collectivism. So, yeah, I think this speaks to that. And then Libra for America is the 11th house of social networks, large organizations, financial gain, wishes, desires. So this is about we as Americans. We have to say, okay, what do we want out of life? How are we going to get that? And do we have any obstructions to getting that? So people have different views on what they want. So they're going to get a little heated, and they're going to want to maybe get a little rowdy about that. We'll see. I don't see any rioting coming, but there's just so much tension building within the population, and people who have different viewpoints. April 17th, Neptune follows Jupiter into Pisces. They're both at home, and they're going to show us some things. Show us some things that were very mysterious and hidden and unseen. April 27th, Venus in Pisces. So Venus comes to her exaltation sign. Venus is I almost contradicted myself. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. Exaltation is where a planet is basically like a celebrity. So planets have home signs and they have exaltation signs. So when your planet is in its home sign, it's comfortable, it's powerful. But when you're at home, people see the real you. And, they don't treat you like you're special because they're like, oh, that's just dad, that's just mom, oh, that's just my brother. Like, I know this person. I'm not going to worship this person and kiss their ass and, think that they're the most amazing thing ever because it's my family member, it's my neighbor, it's my friend. I grew up with that person. That's what it's like at home. People love you, but they see you realistically and they don't put you on a pedestal so much. Now, when a planet's exalted, it's on a pedestal. It's a celebrity. Celebrities can do pretty much whatever the hell they want. And all of our favorite politicians that boss us around, well, they're celebrities. They're actually reality TV celebrities. So, yeah, Venus is in Pisces. So, Venus can be very creative, but at the same time, when planets are exalted, they don't work very hard. So, but Venus in Pisces really helps people to be creative about seeing the divine, seeing hidden things, seeing into mysteries. Pisces is just mysteries all day long, wall to wall. So, yeah, Venus in the Pisces is going to help us in a really right-brained kind of a way, in a very intuitive way, in an emotionally grounded way, to see into these mysteries that, again, Jupiter and Neptune meeting up are basically inviting us to see. So that's interesting about that transit. We're getting there. We got 2 more days. April 29th. Pretty big day here. So Saturn moves into Aquarius. Saturn transits from Capricorn to Aquarius. And on that very day, Pluto goes into retrograde in Capricorn. What is it? 4 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn. And I don't think Pluto is going back to Sagittarius. I'm going to double check that. Pretty sure Pluto does this whole retrograde. Yeah. Goes back to 1 degree of Capricorn. So Pluto's going to spend the whole retrograde in Capricorn. It's going to cover about 3 degrees. Think about Pluto. Pluto does 1 retrograde a year, spends a little over 5 months in retrograde. So a little more than half the year. So it's going to be in retrograde till October 8th. I think this has a lot to do with the Persephone myth. So if you don't know Persephone, Persephone was a goddess of fertility, of nature, of the blossoming of nature. It's like when the sun passes over the equator on the spring equinox and it comes back and it brings spring and summer and nature just bursts forth. Everything is fertile and blooming. That's the energy of Persephone. Now, Persephone married Hades, Pluto, god of the underworld. So the myth stated that Persephone would spend half the year in the underworld with her husband, the god of the underworld, and half the year in the overworld, making nature bloom and be fertile and prosper, live long and prosper. So this was, myths have so many levels. So on one level, this explains, basically the Earth's wobble, and the sun seems to, transit south and transit north. This explained, well, nature gives you a bounty for half the year, and then nature sleeps for half the year. This is also too, this myth of Persephone also, in my opinion, it's kind of about how it can't be summer all the time in your life. You can't be just giddy and giggling all the time. You have to go through things. You have to face things. So it's like, yeah, this goddess of just, radiance and fertility, and even she has to wane, but then she gets to wax. It's like you just can't be enjoying the party all of the time. So yeah, Pluto's going to have this retrograde. Pluto is going to be going back and helping us to really be aware of what it is in authority, government, hierarchies, and then finance and money. What things in those spheres, in those facets of our lives and of the world, what has to be changed within those spheres? So it's going to be a time where we're really going to think about this, and we're going to see things kind of being overhauled. So I think government, authority, and then the financial world, they're going to have some karma coming their way. They're going to have some setbacks. They're going to not be able to hide their manipulation the way they have been for a long time. So that's very encouraging. And since Saturn's going to Aquarius on this day, on April 29th, Saturn's basically saying, well, my work in Capricorn's done. See you in 30 years. So Saturn, the judge of the cosmos, basically spent 3 years in Capricorn and passed down a sentence, passed down a judgment for government, authority, finance, money. Saturn basically conducted a trial, did an audit, and said, you're lying here, you're being unreal here, that's not realistic, that's not sustainable, you can't keep that up. Saturn basically did this whole kind of assessment, or basically made plans for renovation, or passed down a judgment and said, okay, here's what you have to do, I'm leaving, I'll see you in 30 years when the remodeling's done. So this is really going to start kicking up the restructuring of government, the transformation of government, the transformation of money and finance. Okay, so we get to our last day here, April the 30th. This is the solar eclipse at 16 degrees of Aries. This is interesting, so if I've put you to sleep, wake up. Pause it if you have to. Wake yourself up. This is happening in the lunar mansion of Bharani, or Bharani in phonetic English. This is it's Venus ruled, and it's all about basically, it can be about sort of like taking extreme measures to get things done, because it is Aries. Aries is about getting shit done and taking initiative. It's about leadership. So it's about sort of taking extreme measures if you need to. It's about adapting and overcoming, as the Marines say. Deals with like desire, fear, sacrifice, being jealous, wanting something because you feel jealous, but it's all about transformation and change, and just being willing to embrace it. So yeah, it's a pretty volatile type of a sign. I mean, a volatile constellation, because it's just like, all right, let's do this. I want it. I want this. Let's do it. Fuck you. I'm going to take it if it's yours, So it takes place, again, 16 degrees of Aries. Uranus is at 20 degrees. It's nearby. So it's conjunct. It's within 4 degrees. So, and it's a Rahu eclipse. So they're conjunct Rahu. So Rahu eclipses, it's like you gain something, you manifest something, you bring something new in. And then Uranus shakes shit up. So This solar eclipse is going to shake shit up. And it's Aries, so it's what goes on in our heads. It's our thinking. It's the contents in here. So it's going to rattle people's brains. Something's going to come about that really just blows people's minds. Uranus is an earth shaker. And then for America, it's the 5th house. So 5th house deals with like romance, fun, ancient knowledge, mantras, creativity. So it deals with arts, performance, even writing. But big thing 5th house deals with, it's one of the houses that deals with politics, because politics is a performance art. It's just a show. It's WWF wrestling, where these two groups pretend they hate each other, and it's this big drama. It's all fake. They all work for the same people. So some kind of shake-up could come in that. Now, another interesting thing too is that on that day, you have Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Pisces. So Pisces it's like hidden things, mysteries, isolated places for the world. For America, it's the 4th house of home and homeland. Now, when you first look at it, it seems like, oh, Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Pisces. That's cool. Jupiter's at home in Pisces, and it's the ruler, and Venus is exalted. Well, they don't really like each other. They're actually enemies. When you go into the mythology, Jupiter is Zeus. Venus is Aphrodite, but to me it's also Athena. So Athena was one of the daughters of Zeus. Now what Zeus did, after he overthrew his father, he had all these children. He was very paranoid of losing his throne to his children, just like he had taken the throne from his father, Kronos, aka Saturn, who'd done that to his father, Uranus. So what Zeus did was he ate his children. So he ate his children. The one who got them out of that jam wasn't Ares, the war god. It was Athena. Athena basically punched a hole in the top of his head and made a hole and got out. So Jupiter and Venus are not good friends. So you've got a planetary war going on here. And, another manifestation of this planetary war that Venus and Jupiter are always in, they're both teachers. So Jupiter's Sanskrit name is Guru. And gurus they're perfectionists. They're all about purity. You have to do everything perfectly, everything purely. And if one little thing is off, they're like, no, fuck it, do it again, you're wrong. Venus is like the human planet. So Venus is the type of teacher that tells you, you know what? It's really just all about your intent. It's about what's in your heart. It's what you intend. So, because Jupiter is a celestial god, celestial gods can get very self-righteous. They're all about purity and perfection and timelessness. Venus, though it is in the heavens, is a terrestrial goddess. So the terrestrial gods and goddesses, they're very empathetic to the human condition because they live in time and space. And they have wisdom. If you live outside of time and space, you can have power and awareness, but you don't have wisdom. So the celestial gods and goddesses do not have wisdom, but the terrestrials do. So they have very different outlooks. And Jupiter just wants to be, the big man all the time. But Venus is like, no, you're actually self-righteous. You're hypocritical. You're a fucking perfectionist. I'm not going to listen to you. So they don't quite agree on how to teach the humans. So that's interesting here because the elites in our world, they don't consider themselves human anymore. They're narcissistic and they're pretty sick in the head and very detached from the human condition. And they just want to upload their minds into computers to live forever. So they're always talking about, what do we do with the humans? How do we reduce all the number of humans? People behind the scenes, Pisces, mysterious people, Pisces, are in a disagreement about what to do with the humans, how to instruct the humans, because because just Jupiter and Venus are very different about how they do things. And you can take this to a whole other level too. I personally think that the Earth is probably an asset that's owned by a corporation that's like exists throughout the galaxy, kind of like in the movie Jupiter Ascending. So this is we're basically on a cattle ranch. So whether you're talking about extraterrestrial, physical beings, or you're talking about beings who live in other dimensions, who communicate with, say, secret societies in this world, for example, that all the politicians belong to, all of these would-be overlords, they're not agreeing right now about how to deal with the humans and how to instruct the humans. So there's a war going on that level too. And some are very not empathetic with humans and others are more empathetic. And there's a struggle going on here. And with that going on, you've got Neptune close by at 0 degrees. So again, we're being invited. Do you want to see what's really going on here, or you just want to just believe the narrative on TV and just go to sleep? So with all this solar eclipse, solar eclipse and new moon going on, we've got this whole Venus and Jupiter thing where it's like the overlords can't agree about how to deal with the humans, but it's also a conflict that's going to bring something out into the open. It's going to bring mysteries out into the open. And then to take that another step further, this eclipse is visible in Antarctica. Now the one on October 25th is going to be visible in Europe, Western Europe, and I think like Western Russia too, and like places like Ukraine. Now, and a couple weeks before that, Pluto is going to go direct. So Pluto is working on telling us something about government. Now, what could they be telling us about government here in America and the whole world, especially the Western world? Okay, what do Europe and Antarctica have in common? If you said Germany, you're absolutely correct. So before World War II, Nazi Germany built bases in Antarctica. They wrote about it. Hitler even bragged about it. Admiral Dönitz, I think, who was the head of the German Navy, even said, yeah, we built the Führer a giant base in Antarctica. And then Operation High Jump in 1946. Admiral Byrd went down there with an allied fleet, I think Americans, Brits, Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians. Something happened down there and they got their asses kicked. Official history says, oh, that was a scientific exploration. Well, they had submarines and they had like 3 aircraft carriers. Yeah, you don't do that for scientific exploration. Ships sank down there and they try to say, well, they were just bad storms and icebergs. Well, in Buenos Aires on the way back, they cut the trip short. And Admiral Byrd, who's the head of it, said, yeah, we got our asses kicked down there. And we now have an enemy. We know we have an enemy that can fly pole to pole on the Earth in a matter of minutes. Well, those were the Nazis who escaped to Antarctica. We know they escaped to South America. Well, they went to Antarctica too. And it's even known, especially by Polish intelligence, Russian intelligence, that Nazi Germany had saucer, like disc craft. So they had some really advanced technology. Everything that all the technology that they divvied between the Soviets and the Americans was obsolete shit. Rockets were obsolete shit by 1945. The Nazis had way better. They took it from the Germans after they destroyed Germany. And then they came to America. Some escaped to America, some went to Soviet Union, some went to South America, some went to Antarctica. So this eclipse is visible in Antarctica. Then the one in October is visible in Europe. So what do Antarctica and Europe have in common? Germany. Specifically Nazi Germany. So I think around this time we are going to start learning about where did the Nazis really go after World War II. We're going to learn about start learning how they built CIA, they built NSA, they built the highway system, they built the airlines, they built NASA, they built the medical system, on and on and on and on. They basically built this country after World War II. So we're going to learn things about that. I'm going to do a whole video about that whole connection because it's fucking crazy. But yeah, there's going to be, so going back to that Jupiter-Venus thing at the same degree in Pisces, the teachers in the world, so the academics, the media, they're not going to be able to agree on whether the humans should know this. So is the war between the teachers, Jupiter and Venus. So I think I've probably said about enough. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll have more coming your way now that I've kind of got my mojo back. I've got this beautiful new space. So thanks for tuning in. If you've not had a Vedic astrology reading with me, I highly recommend it. It's a very unique type of a reading. It's a reading that empowers you. It's not about just impressing you with my amazing psychic skills as an astrologer. It actually helps you to take a deeper look at yourself, especially your planet of destiny, which rules your unconscious mind and your life path, your planet of Dharma, Dharma Devata, and then your karmic axis, so your Rahu and Ketu, your north and south nodes. Those are your present and past life karma. It's all about what you came into this life to learn how to do and what you came into this life to learn how to leave behind. So I'd be happy to do one of those for you. You can schedule on my website. I also do those rune readings, and I've got some Qigong videos for download. Some instructional videos, great mind-body practice. That really, my new video focuses on the heart center. It helps you to dump emotional baggage. It's a practice that I absolutely love. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll be talking to you. Have a good one.